Welcome back. Now, Thebe Magugu recently launched his latest collection dubbed Heritage 3 Lobola Negotiations. The collection celebrates South African Lobola negotiations with vibrant dresses, shirts and features 18 South African icons. The internationally renowned designer is a fashion icon whose creativity expands beyond making beautiful garments. He joins us now virtually to share a bit more on his latest collection. Thebe, very good morning. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on the show this morning. Now, let's talk about your collection and the inspiration behind Lobola. What's that about?
So, as a designer, I think there's two things that fuel me. It's this idea of pageantry and this idea of process. And I feel like both those things are very apparent within the Lobola negotiation. And I think it certainly warrants creative exploration, this idea of a centuries-old custom that brings into union two families. And I've loved the idea of playing that around, playing with that in fashion, through color, print, and cut as well.
Yeah, and the aim of this collection, I suppose, is to, educate the world about the Lobola tradition itself. So how is that portrayed through fashion? How does it find expression in fashion?
I think over and above the essay that I've gotten a writer, Olwetile Shabani, to write about the Lobola negotiation on thebemagugu.com, its legalities, its process. I think in fashion, whenever I think of a bride or a new makoti, I think of regality. I think of, an autonomous and very powerful sense of femininity. And I feel like there's something quite angelic as well about that. So I try to infuse all those elements into the actual silhouette. So unlike past editions, which were more tinty, one is belted, and you can see the beautiful sort of hourglass silhouette of the woman who wears it. And if you look at the sleeves towards the end, there's a beautiful fluting cuff that from afar does feel quite angelic, but it's also quite practical as well, having pockets and details from a classic shirt dress, because everyone knows how hard makotis work during that time.
Of course, tell me about it. And the garments, Thebe, not only feature vibrant colors, as you can see, but also, it's an illustration of 9 South African tribes, yeah?
Yes. So, this is the third installment of Heritage, and how it had started was that, I'm Soto, and I wanted to find a way where I can celebrate being Soto, but not necessarily always having to be in my, Soto blanket and my straw hat. So I tried to move all the things and cultural cues into ready to wear, so I can wear it every day and represent my culture. And with Lobola in particular, I think we can all appreciate that each culture has its sort of variation on what Lobola actually is. Some people call it Lobola, some cultures, Mahadi. Each culture has its own interpretation of what the process should be. And I think representing that through the clothes was important as well.
Yeah, and in addition to the collection standing out in itself, another thing perhaps that caught the attention of many was the use of public figures to reveal the collection, yeah? How did you select the icons?
Yeah. I selected people who are really spearheading, I think, their respective industries forward, and really showing the nuance and sophistication of what it means to be South African. And in many ways, these people are taking our stories and archiving it through their various disciplines, whether it's in theater, music, art, and exporting it to the world, and it's people who are telling our story to the world instead of it being told on behalf.
And I see that the Ndebele dress with artworks are illustrated by Patu Nembilwi. You've worked with her, right, on other collections as well. Let's talk about your relationship with her and how her art integrates with your designs.
Sure. I have a great relationship with Patu. We started working together in 2017. And I think people who are familiar with my work understand that it looks at our history. And one understands that our history has there's a lot of beautiful parts about our history, and then there's a lot of harrowing parts about our history. And the first time we worked together was in 2017, during the very high femicide rates that were happening in South Africa. And her and I came together and we created this illustration of a woman leaning into the arms of another, in constellation. And that created the Girl Seeks Girl dress as a sort of showcase, not a showcase, but like just showing the world and telling the story that this is a very serious issue to look at. We've done really beautiful work together that has really powerful messaging behind it over the years.
Now, Thebe, are you a designer that prides himself in exclusivity? I mean, are these limited edition pieces? How many are you selling?
Okay, so there is 150 in total, but that becomes very limited if you divide that by 9 cultures, so that does become very limited in that sense. I don't know how much that is. My maths is terrible, but 150 divided by 9.
So it won't be a mass production, you say?
No, it won't be. It won't be mass produced.
Okay. Let's now talk about the pricing and what you consider when putting a price to your work. Come again?
I was saying what's very special about it this past weekend, someone got married in the Lobola dress and her partner also wore the men's shirt. So I almost want it to become the sort of new uniform for people getting married at their sort of traditional weddings.
Right. And it's a good thing that you're not leaving the guys behind in your designs, in your garments.
Exactly. I think that's very...
Let's talk about the pricing and what you considered when you're putting a price to your work.
So when I price my work, I consider the many hands that went into this process. Like I'm actually wearing the Costa Lobola shirt now, this, never mind the sort of weeks of research and ideation. It's the idea that you commission someone, to do the illustrations.
Yes.
And when it gets here, it's the cost plus 60% for duties that, to bring anything into the country. That goes down to Cape Town, to get sublimated and printed with a dedicated team that comes back to Joburg and gets sort of cut into the pattern and then sewn up and then, shipped to wherever it needs to go. So by the time from ideation to when it gets into someone's hands, there's 25, 30 plus people who actually equitably have to get paid for that. So I think that I always try and tell people when they're trying to, and I see it on Twitter a lot, critique designer prices. I think it's just about considering that there's so many hands and skills that have passed through that garment.
Okay. And how can we, get hold of these garments? Would I be one of the lucky few to lay my hands on one?
Yes, so you can go onto my website, www.thebemagugu.com, and the dress and the men's shirt is now available for pre-order, and all shipments actually start from the 6th of May. So I would encourage anyone who wants to get one to fall in line very quickly before they sell out.
And I could hear Liesl giggling right next to me, probably thinking that I'm considering Lobola by wanting a garment. All right, Thebe, lovely chatting to you, man. Thank you so much for joining us, and beautiful work. We really love your work.
Thank you for having me.
Well, South African luxury fashion brand guru Thebe Magugu unveiled a collection that celebrates the heritage of Lobola Negotiations.